Melanie, welcome to the Mindfulpreneur podcast. We
Thank
have
you.
somehow, in a weird way, been connected years ago when I worked in another lifetime for Air Canada Rouge, and you were partners with them. You supplied them with lipstick. So when I heard about you and you were introduced to me, I'm like, oh my God, wait, I know this brand from so long ago. So you guys have really been around for a while. Tell us, like, what is Delish all about? When did you get started? And like, what is the products that you're
Yeah,
selling? What are the products?
no, everything is always about timing and
Mm-hmm.
it all is so connected. And I'm so thrilled to be here with you. So thank you so much. It's so nice when things come back around.
Mm-hmm.
Delish is a consumer based brand. I've been in business for over 15 years. And I am not a celebrity driven brand. I am not a makeup artist brand. I am a consumer, your daily essentials. Suffered from debilitating, horrific acne, which of course led to bullying. And so for me, I am the chemistry side of the business. I went back to school for chemistry. That's my foundation. And the original dupster. All I wanted to do was recreate my conventional designer brands but without any of the harsh chemicals. And think about this like 18 years ago, because that's really when I started researching and getting into it. I
Mm-hmm.
could not believe the things that were going in our body. And it really was what was one of the main drivers of irritating my skin. I'm super sensitive and clogging my pores and all closed comedones and all this kind of stuff. So when I started to learn how to do formulations, I'm a baker. My mom was a great cook and a baker. And so I had that instilled for me in a young age. So formulations make sense to me because they're
That's so
precision.
interesting. I love that. How the
Yeah.
baking played into it.
Because it's precision, it's
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
measuring.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's all about texture. And I don't want a lot of stuff. I am all about basics. My wardrobe is the exact same. In fact, my life mirrors this, where I want the things that I can use and I want the things that I love. And so I say, Delish is all about your daily essentials. And basically just think of your, products that are completely clean and safe to not only put on your skin, but to ingest. In your lifetime, you will ingest over 10 pounds on average, each woman, 10 pounds of lip
Oh,
products.
no
Every,
way. That's
every time you open your,
interesting.
every time you open your mouth, you're ingesting product, whether it be lip balm, lip gloss, lipstick. Then you transfer it over to your partners or the people that you kiss. That then goes on their skin. It only takes 60 seconds to be absorbed into the skin. So
Okay, wait. So when you say ingest, are like when you put it on your lips because it's like kind of like soaking in and going into your bloodstream, is that what you mean? Or because it's like near your mouth, you kind of like, I don't know, like put it on your
no,
tongue and kind of like eat it?
every single time we open our mouth, it is going into our body. Saliva, things move. And then I love the lick lippers. You know what I mean? The lick lippers,
Uh,
they're eating like 20 pounds in their lifetime because they're ingesting it. But
that's insane.
it's transfer every time you take a sip, every time you take a bite, every
Right.
single time you open your mouth, you are ingesting. It's not just staying, it's a living product. It's moving constantly. And
Right.
think about how it wears throughout the day. Where does it go? Your
Uh-huh.
body's absorbing it.
Yeah, makes sense. Hence why it's so important to like make sure that what you're putting on your lips is clean. And then you like you said 15, 16, 17, 18 years ago, that's a long time ago for this industry. I feel like now
Yes.
it's a little bit more saturated with like, the green
Yes.
products, cruelty free, blah, blah, blah. You see it, it's way more common. But back then, like those types of brands were far and few between. So,
Absolutely. And so my whole thing was if I was going to launch, not only did my products have to perform better, but they
mhm,
had to look good. They couldn't be granola. Everything was very granola, very brown, and it
yeah.
wasn't vibrant. I did start off, using carmine when I first launched my business, which is the most natural colorant you can get for reds and pinks. And it's beetle shells, but I would have rather consumed beetle shells. They've been using it since the Egyptian times than the harsh FDC colors, which, by the way, if you have cancer or if you're on any kind of chemo, you cannot consume. So, things have come a long way, thankfully, and but there's a lot of greenwashing. And so
Mhm.
for me, it was not only am I going to do the daily essentials, we don't have SKUs of 400 products. We have a very curated. It's like what kind of mascara you need. You need a black or you need a black brown. We have 5 shades of lip glosses. We have 7 lipsticks. We have 1 highlighter. Very curated, because we also know, and I just know from experience, if I'm given so many different options, well, which option do you actually choose? Like, how
Yeah,
do
it
you know
becomes
what to
overwhelming.
choose?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. So I just wanted, knowing that feeling good is routed in, how I present myself, I wanted to take all the guesswork out of it and just come up with my basic daily essentials that I trust, that I know it's not going to pollute my body, that I can feel good about, but most importantly, less is more. I'm going on a trip tomorrow. If you saw, I literally just did a video on IG about, look at my essentials that I'm taking on my travel. It's all skincare. There's a very small
Hmm.
portion of makeup because you don't need a lot. Less is more. Skincare, that's a whole other ball game.
Yeah, a little goes a long way. So
Absolutely.
you got into this industry without any experience. You had gone to school back
Zero.
for chemistry. However, in terms of business, entrepreneurship, building a CPG brand, like what did those first few years look like for you? I would assume a lot of trial and error, but coming into a space that you're so unfamiliar with and has so many layers to it, what was your experience when you first started out?
Oh, there's that saying, if you only had known before you got started. Um, so I had zero connections, zero experience, and just like you said, zero anything knowledge about the consumer packaged good. I come from an advertising and marketing background, but I come in from media, so television,
Mm,
newspaper, but it was just such a passion, something that I just knew in my bones, that I, just knew what needed to be done, and I could see the direction. I could feel the future. And so, listen, I tell everybody I did everything completely backwards. I've made every mistake that you can possibly imagine. But the truth of the matter is, I feel like I'm the business owner I am today because you learn more from your mistakes
hmm
than you do from your victories. And
hmm
believe me, I have learned.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit though, because I mean, we have years to look back on, but if you were to kind of pinpoint some of the bigger ones that you feel by sharing would help someone else or prevent them maybe from kind of making that mistake, could you share some stories and
Yeah. Oh my
examples?
gosh, there's so many. So when I first, my biggest victory was finding a manufacturer that would work with me doing small
Hmm.
quantities. Once I got that, I was just kind of like so immersed in the product development that I didn't bother to do a strategy or a
Hmm.
marketing plan.
Mm.
So now that I had all this product, it's like now where I'm going to sell it. So, going forward, first of all, it is night and day compared to where I start. We have so many things at our fingertips: planning, knowing your competition, researching the industry more. Those are critical aspects. You don't necessarily need to have a background in the industry that you want to be in,
Yeah.
but you do have to research
Yeah, educate
and
yourself for sure.
educate yourself. Start to already build your platform. Start already using the tools that you have for free at your fingertips, because what's happening now is people are starting to launch their own lines to ready-made audiences, and I didn't have any of that at my fingertips. At the time when I started, you had to use PR. Things are so different now. But first of all, know your numbers, budget, whatever you think it's going to cost, add 40%, because there are going to be things that come up left, right, and center. In fact, that is still true to this day, even when I'm sorry, even though when we launch new products, um, we still have unforeseen costs, whether it be with packaging, raw materials, so on and so forth. So make sure whatever you think for budget, whatever you think you've allotted, absolutely a lot more. And then just going back over your marketing plan. Who is your target audience? And I think this was the hardest thing that I struggled with when I launched my business, is I didn't know who my target audience was.
Hmm.
I had the basic of like 24 to 69. That's not your target market. A 69 and a 24-year-old do not have the same interests, the same needs, the same problems that need being solved. So first of all, what problem are you solving? And then most
Hmm.
importantly, get so specific. Household income, education, where are they hanging out? That's where
Yeah.
you want to be. Uh, And I just feel like I wish I would have done a bigger deep dive because I just launched my product and I was like, I guess I'll find out who my customer was.
Hmm.
And I did eventually, but looking back on it, I really needed to do more work in so many different aspects.
Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that same thing because when you're starting a business, your goal is to reach as many people as possible, right? And
Absolutely.
realistically, depending on, the business, oftentimes a product can be for many different people. So it really depends on what you want to focus on because yes, it could be for 25 to 65-year-olds. However, if you're trying to communicate to everybody, you're then communicating to nobody, right? And like you said, the hyper specificity is really what resonates with people. So, as much as we want to be able to reach as many people as we can and say that our product is for everybody or our service is for everybody, by doing that, you're actually doing the opposite. And it's mostly because of like the effectiveness of the marketing as a result. It doesn't mean that those people can't also be your clients, but maybe you target them differently or you have a different approach. And for example, if you're running ad campaigns, like those two campaigns could look different, even
Yes.
even though those are still both of your customers and those age ranges. It's a very simple example, but it gets much more complex than that.
Absolutely. And also, too, time. I feel like we're such in a rush and
Mm,
it takes time to get the data. So, for instance, for social media, case in point, you need to post for at least a month before you really can get a good sense from the data of the timing, what is resonating, what you're getting engagement on. And I think I see so many entrepreneurs where they're not even year one into their business and like, we're going to make $1 million, and I'm like, okay, how are you going to make that $1 million? Like, what are you doing? And they're just like, well, we're just going to keep posting every day. And it's like, you really got to be hyper focused, and details are our friend. We need, regardless, listen, there's so many tools at our fingertips where we can watch a quick video to learn how to read the data. There really is no excuse, but these are the things that I wish that I had paid more attention to when I first started launching my business, is just really understanding where my customer was, but most importantly, engagement. What is resonating with people?
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what would you say then to someone who, let's say, doesn't have that following, doesn't have that community to fall back on, and anything to really analyze in terms of like who's engaging with what, right? Because we're talking earlier stages. If we're just launching, you're
Yep.
just starting to even build that community.
Yep.
So what should people look for?
So I'll tell you what people should look for. Let's talk about, TikTok, case in point, and Instagram. Those are pretty much the two top social medias that I would say. Instagram is where you're selling. TikTok is creating awareness. And there's various brands that I can, quote that came up, really built an incredible following. And they're doing the work. It's being consistent. So on TikTok, you need to post minimum 3 times a day for a minimum for 1 month to see any kind of new engagement and growth. That is the formulation, and that's how we're seeing these influencers and these content creators. Because keep in mind, these guys all started from zero. Consistency is key. You need to post the same time every single day and multiple times a day. But most importantly, the number one thing, you can't post just to post. You must be giving good nuggets of information. Here's the thing, if people like what you're saying or like what you're doing, they're going to share. They're going to save, they're going to tag, they're going to repost. If you're just posting and you're not sure the direction that you're going in, it's going to come across like that. We do content calendars. Let me tell you, they're a big to do. We spend a lot of time on these content calendars so that we're giving good information to our clientele. Everybody starts from the exact same place, which is zero. We all have
Mm-hmm.
started there. Same with newsletter database. We have a newsletter database over 60,000. Guess where it started? Zero. We worked so hard with doing contests. When we started on Instagram, what were our followers? Zero. What did we start doing? Makeup tutorials, how to, do basic formulations, things that people were interested in seeing and learning. Nobody wants to see a bunch of stale images. You've got to be
Yeah.
giving value. That's what we do. We give value.
Mm-hmm. For sure. No, definitely important. Like you said, like those sale images, I think a lot of people think like, oh, I'm going to just take like the best pictures and post them. And then you're just like trying to sell your product the whole time. But it's a matter of really balancing out what you're posting. Hence, a social media strategy, hence having content pillars and all that stuff. I don't know. I've seen like posts where people say like content pillars are dead. To a degree, like I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, I feel like it's a great way to kind of like organize your ideas and like the type of content you want to be posting. I do think that there is a bit more fluidity than before on social media, though, because let's say, if you have content pillars, you're basically dividing by a percentage of like how much of what you should post per month. But if let's say you're posting those makeup tutorials and that's what's really resonating, you can also choose to kind of shift that. And I don't feel like it's so like set in stone as it once was, because you're looking at what's trending, what's performing, and then basically
Thousand.
pushing that. And you can't really predict that, right? So you could have some kind of like idea strategy in place, but I think it's important to note that, like, because some people are very much like sticklers, we have to follow it, this is what we have to do. I think you need to be open and be fluid to make those changes and evolve as you're listening to your community.
So I love that you're using the word fluid. I use the word flexible.
Yeah.
You have to be flexible because things are always, always changing. And something that I found really interesting. So let's talk, Ryan Reynolds, Canadian actor. He actually is a billionaire, and it has not from his movies, from his business ideas, or business investments, I should say. But he has his own marketing agency. And the whole formulation for the marketing agency is they only use content and that's relevant in the media. So whatever is happening in the media that's relevant, they somehow use that kind of format or messaging into the marketing of whatever products they're trying to market, so that
Mm.
everything they're marketing is always relevant.
Yeah.
You have to be flexible because here's the thing. It's, right now, a lot of the bigger brands are no longer working with influencers and content creators. They're moving away and only working with their customers because those are the people who are actually buying the product. You use pillars. I use buckets for everything. So for instance, when it comes to business, I have 4 buckets. If an opportunity comes to my door, and I don't care if there's how much money is attached to it, if it does not fit in my bucket, I will say no.
Mm.
I think when you first start as an entrepreneur, and believe me, I did this, is you say yes to everything and you
Yeah.
do everything. It's almost at the time I felt like a rite of passage. It's not a rite of passage. If something gets presented to you and it doesn't feel right or it doesn't feel in alignment with the direction that you're going in, you need to be ruthless. And let me tell you, being ruthless is the hardest thing,
Yeah.
especially when you first start out because you feel
Hmm.
like you just don't know what's going to work and you have to try everything. But your, attention, what your results are from the attention that you put in. So if you have 4 buckets and you say this doesn't fit into any one of these buckets, then you need to be ruthless and you need to be relentless and you need to keep going and focus on the things because those are what is going to get you to where you want to be the quickest.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. And I'm actually in the process of kind of making some shifts internally. So, Nomad Creative, being a creative agency, we've been around for almost 7 years now. And when I started off, it was very hyper focused on branding, like brand was our thing. And as time went by, I saw opportunity to expand in different departments because clients would always ask, "Oh, well, do you do social? Do you do web? Do you do marketing? Do you do this?" And because of the nature of the way that the business is set up, I work with freelancers. I was like, sure, like I can figure out how to do this. I just have to like curate the team and basically like build these services for my clients. And so I kind of would say like yes, 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 because I wanted to support them and
Yep.
not leave any money on the table. But by doing that, we kind of diluted our expertise,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it kind of took away from what our core strength truly was. Not to say that companies don't still come to us for branding. That is the number one thing that they come to us for. But I was losing my focus by putting my efforts towards these other areas in the business that like we did well, but was that like our specialty? No. And there were so many different like hiccups and problems that would occur, and it would take up so much of my time and would cause so much stress and frustration. Not to say that that can't still happen if you are super focused, but I think that I could have been a lot more successful in brand
Yes.
faster if I had just focused my messaging there. But like you said, you trial and error in the beginning, you take your time, you figure it out, and then I think it's also okay to go back and say, hey, even though we said yes to all these things, we can now start saying no to some. And so that's kind of where I'm at, is kind of
Absolutely.
readjusting, creating those like buckets, and really deciding what works and what doesn't work. I actually spoke with someone who basically run Sundays Furniture. I don't know if you know
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah, of course.
So she works internally and basically came in to restructure like the entire company a few years back. And so I had a one-on-one chat with her, just like, as like women working in business essentially. And her whole thing was like, you have a yes column, you have a no column, and then you have a
Yeah.
maybe column. And that maybe column is very much for like the whales, is what she called them, those big opportunities, those big
Yes.
companies that you want to be flexible for. You don't want to put them in the no directly. And like, again, flexibility. So having that like maybe column, but still the discipline with the yes and the no's, I think is important. So that's where like I'm currently even restructuring my business, Nomad Creative, to reflect essentially exactly what you just said.
Yeah, well, and listen, let me save all of you up and coming entrepreneurs a lot of money. You know, our core is we are color cosmetics, but guess what? I've done baby care, I've done body care, I've done
There you go.
skincare.
Yeah.
I have done every single one of these things. They all cost me a lot of money to invest in. I did
Mm-hmm.
it because retailers asked me, and I thought, oh, it's a huge opportunity. And guess what? I don't have any of those right now going on
Yeah.
simply because it's easy to get distracted of what you do really, really well and look at the
Mm-hmm.
big companies that are thriving, like Nike. Nike doesn't sell cleaning supplies. Nike sells athletic wear,
Yeah.
sporting wear. Everything is within the realm. And exactly what you said about the whales. My whales were once I knew what my buckets were and I was dead on. It's like when the Mattels came in for the Barbie collaborations, it's with the Air Canada's come in, MasterCard, all of these different collaborations and partnerships, sponsoring Fashion Week. Those, even though they were huge and things that I hadn't planned for, they all made sense for the business. They
Mm-hmm.
all fit in those buckets. They weren't create this line, do this, do that. It's so easy to get off track. But focus on what you do and do it really, really well, because not any of us can launch all these different lines. And we have seen this over and over again. Lululemon branched out into skincare. Where is
Did
it
they?
now? They had the worst reviews. They had a deodorant that you could also use as a matte cleaner.
Oh, God.
So the
Wait, did I
reviews,
totally miss this? This is not anymore.
yeah, no, this was a few years ago, and it was like they invested millions
Oh,
of dollars
wow.
into
Yeah.
this body care line. And, for Lululemon, guess what? You know what? Lululemon does what they do incredibly well,
Mm-hmm.
incredibly well. And, you know, I understand when you want to like attract new customers and so on and so forth. And there's ways to do that in your market. That's where, in your business, that's where new markets come across,
Mm-hmm.
getting in front of new customers, collaboration, so on and so forth. There's ways to get around that without having to go so far off. And honestly, I'll never forget reading the comments. It was like just like could not have bombed anymore. And literally the sentiment was not only were the reviews horrible, because guess what? Lululemon isn't a body care company. They're
Yeah.
a leisure wear company, athletic company. So you have them coming in. What are their expertise? They didn't hire anyone. They hired a manufacturer, but they didn't like bring somebody in who knows how to do it specially. So, listen, you can't find a trace of it now. It was completely wiped because it was such an epic failure. So,
Wow.
you
Yeah.
know, people go through this. All kinds of
Mm-hmm.
companies go through this. And this, I'll save, both of us can save new entrepreneurs a lot of money. Stick in your wheelhouse. Stick to what you do. You can expand your product line. There's so many different things you can do, but do not go to such a far extent that I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to lose money, period.
That's it. If like the quality of your service or product is compromised, that's
Yeah.
when you know
Yeah.
it's not working, you know?
1,000%. And it's so easy because let me tell you, as a new entrepreneur, or as a young entrepreneur, we say yes to everything. And the amount of events and sponsorships and opportunities and products that I launch. I had this one, retailer tell me about a shade that they thought was going to be amazing. I didn't love the shade. That was red flag number one. I launched the shade. Guess how well the shade did? Bum, bum, bum. You know what I mean? Guess who's stuck with that? me.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, there's just things, it's so easy to get distracted, but I feel like I want new entrepreneurs to know that they can say no.
Yeah.
If it doesn't feel right, uh, trust your gut, right? Beyonce has this great line in one of her songs where it's like, I bet on myself. You have already bet on yourself. The fact that
Hmm.
you're even taking this journey is you have faith in yourself. Don't lose the faith. Continue to have it. Just be so ruthless and make sure you really define what it is that fits in your buckets.
Yeah, I think the more time goes on too, the easier it is to also like discern all of those things.
Yes.
And to play devil's advocate, as much as we can say now, like, oh, like have your buckets, have your yes, no, maybes. I think that there's also so much value in having made those mistakes. And it's like, okay,
Yes.
yes, we can tell
Yes.
everybody to not do this, but like ultimately you probably still will, even
Yep.
if you have it in the back of your mind being like, oh, this might be a good opportunity, but I'm not really sure. And then like you kind of go for it and then it doesn't really work out. Like that's also okay. So like don't be discouraged if that happens. Like this is obviously our from our experience, and I think everyone has this
Yes.
experience. But if you can be mindful, a little bit more mindful of those decisions and maybe already kind of
Yes.
build those boundaries from the beginning, you might be a little bit more successful and less likely to make those bigger mistakes that a lot of us have made. And I have these conversations now, but I've been in business for 7 years now. If I had had these conversations years ago, I may have done things differently as well. So it's like whenever a friend of mine is starting something now, I love to share what I've experienced and what I
Yes.
went through. And then at the end of the day, you take it with a grain of salt, right? Like this podcast is for anyone. If you're listening, it's probably
Absolutely.
because you want some kind of support and advice. And if it doesn't resonate with you and you
Yes.
don't want to take it, that's fine. But we're
Absolutely.
just speaking from like our experience and like how many people I've spoken to where it's like very much the same situation. Like there's a reason why this happens. Like we're human beings. This is just how we operate.
Absolutely. And, forgive yourself because here
Yeah,
is the truth of the matter. And I said it at the beginning of the podcast where I have learned more from my mistakes than my victories,
of
right?
course. Yeah.
There's so much to learn. So, and regardless, you're going to make mistakes. And let me tell you, the best entrepreneurs I know, it's not their first business where they made a lot of money, right?
Hmm.
It's they've had to go through multiple businesses to get to that point, or had some huge losses. I know multiple entrepreneurs who have been bankrupt and you know what I mean, restarted from
Yeah.
the ground up and really learn from those mistakes and now are like very responsible with their cash flow and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, they're going to happen. Embrace them and just say, okay, what is the takeaway from this?
Hmm. For sure. And I think
You know?
honestly, just like building some kind of community or connection, there are so many resources out there.
Yes.
If you do have questions, if you want to find like a mentor or, like
Yes.
even anyone who's listening, if you've heard someone on this podcast and you're like, this person I really resonate with, like I'm in a similar industry or just like I feel like I'm aligned with their values, like everyone has the ability to connect and is open to having those
Yes.
conversations. So don't be afraid to send an email, to reach out on LinkedIn, to show that you're interested and willing and wanting to grow and learn from these people, because I'm sure that they would be open to having a conversation, and supporting you because we've all kind of been there at some point. And we're all on our journey.
Absolutely.
Like as much as we can support people, we can also use support from others as well, right? There's always
Oh
growth to
my
have.
goodness.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I am so grateful. I'm in the consumer packaged goods, but specifically in clean green beauty. And
Hmm.
I'm part of a group called the Green Beauty Collective that we recently just formed with, you name the top brands in Canada. We are all on. I started a
Love it.
WhatsApp group for us. And I have to say, the information that we share, it is so incredible to have community.
Hmm.
Community is critical because not only do you not feel alone, but we help each other. First of all, we all are essentially competing against each other, but nobody else can relate to us more than us because we know what it's like out there. So we share information about retailers, we
Hmm.
share information about like suppliers and so on and so forth. And make that community. You're right. There's never been anyone who I've reached out onto LinkedIn who has never once wanted to have a conversation with me. In fact, I get in my DM box on a regular basis people asking me questions. I am always more than happy. And I mentor people. I take on one or two people a year that I mentor for a full year. And we go over everything. And the most important thing, like, believe me, what I think my real value is I'm a sounding board,
Mm-hmm.
right? And a lot of the
Yes.
time, what we need is a sounding board.
A
These are
hundred
smart
percent.
people,
Yeah.
but it's nice to run your ideas by somebody. And that's another thing. Don't be scared. Like, obviously, you don't want to be telling the entire world, but get a very small, trusted group
Mm-hmm.
and feel free, because sometimes you just need someone to sound it out with.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, this past 2 weeks, I've had an opportunity present itself to me. My husband and I have been looking at investing in like real estate and whatnot. And we've been going back and forth on whether we want to do like short term rental versus long term rental, whatever. So there was this property where it was like pretty much like good to go. It was already an Airbnb. She was selling it because of a divorce. She was going to give it to us furnished. The price was like decent. And then we started running the numbers and like things weren't making full sense. Like it would take a lot to like even break even. And so I was wondering like, oh, is this normal for Airbnbs or not? So myself, I joined a few Facebook groups and I was already a part of some like women who freelance, whatever. And I just said, hey, like I'm looking into getting into the Airbnb, like short term accommodation space. Does anyone have experience or run their own Airbnb or work with property managers? I'd love to hear from you. And this was like 2 days ago. I've already spoken to 4 people and I'm speaking to one more today just to get to know like their experience. And they were all open to it. I said, if you're open to chatting, and they were all open to chatting, and they're complete strangers. So if this gives anyone the courage, like it doesn't hurt to ask. I feel like people are always kind of like afraid to ask. Like just ask. What's the worst that can happen? No one replies. Oh, that sucks.
Exactly.
You
You
know?
got to think of it like if you've been on dating apps, right? Like swiping.
Yeah.
Some people get back, some people don't. And, I have a lot of people who love to use that analogy with me. And here's the thing, some of the best relationships that I have currently in my life are for me just reaching out to people,
Like
sliding
cold
into their
outreach.
DMs,
Yeah. Yeah.
cold outreach, or like other brand founders where I have like bought their product, tagged their product, and then they're like, hey, can we do a collaboration? You just never know. And you got to keep in mind, people are looking to connect with people.
Yeah.
People want shared experiences. They want to learn what other people are doing. And you're already doing a hard thing, right? A lot of people aren't made to be an entrepreneur. It's not a 9 to 5. You have your highest highs, your lowest of lows. And so take that risk, bet on yourself, and reach out. Worst case scenario is they do not respond. Don't worry about the people that don't respond, because the
Mm-hmm.
ones that do, they're the ones that are going to really help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, to wrap up, I feel like
Yes.
this was almost like the top, but I think you're gonna share something epic right now because
Oh.
I know that you have so much experience and so much knowledge. So we always end the podcast with the mindful minute where you get to share a piece of advice in life, in business, whatever it may be, something that like someone can't necessarily learn from a textbook, from your personal life experience. What do you want to leave people with today?
So I have this 5 5 5. Uh, five, it could be 5 days, 5 months, 5 years. If what you're facing right now, because listen, as an entrepreneur, things feel like crisis mode, right? They feel like life or death. First and foremost, I want you to keep in mind, this sounds like such a weird thing to say, but we are not curing cancer.
Mm,
Okay. This is not
mhm,
life or death. If this is not going to matter in 5 years, 5 months, 5 days, then why are you stressing about it? Because the truth of the matter is, nothing lasts forever. And it's such a cliche thing to say, but you really need to embrace where things are at and be in the moment. The amount of exciting things that I have done, and I couldn't really tell you because I was so anxious trying to get through it, trying to accomplish it.
mm,
This is actually what matters on the journey.
yeah.
Getting to the top is the most boring, let me tell you.
Hmm.
It's all of this growth and this journey, and just, you know, I get emails and all these things where I'm like, is it going to really matter?
Hmm.
So that
Enjoy
is
the
just my
process.
enjoy, not only the process, but you know, I have this saying, and I say it's one of my personal mantras, that things are always working out for me. Things are always working out for me. And I say this when it's great, and I say this when it's not great. Things are always working out for me. And just to really keep perspective, everything feels so serious in the
Hmm.
moment. I promise you, there is nothing that deserves the amount of worry. Worry is one of the most useless emotions that we have,
Yeah.
that we do all the time.
And yeah,
Worry gets you nowhere.
yeah.
Nowhere.
And it really takes over too. I
Yeah,
love
it
that
takes over.
mindset. I love that mindset. Things are always working out for me. Everyone listening, mantra, things are always working out for you.
Things
Say it, repeat
are
it,
always
feel it.
working out for me. And I think what you just need to keep in mind too, if you're looking for things to be bad, you will always find them. If you're looking for things to be good, you will always find them. I
What
feel
you
like
look
I'm
for,
such a
you're going to
cliche.
find. No, it's true.
Absolutely. And so even the way we speak to ourselves is critical. And as somebody
Hmm.
who, was so self-conscious, blah, 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 no, nothing is more important than what we tell ourselves, because what we tell ourselves actually is our reality.
Yep. Boom. Mic drop. I knew you'd kill it. Okay. Where can everybody go to find you and learn more about Delish Cosmetics?
So you can find us on socials at Delish, that's DALISH Cosmetics, and of course, delishcosmetics.com. And if you ever have any questions, don't be shy to DM me. We have an incredible community called the Fab Squad that I am so proud of. And we talk, we share information, we help each other. So do not be scared to ever reach out and join the Fab Squad.
Amazing. Everybody go join the Fab Squad. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode and we'll chat next week. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.